Thanks for joining us today. I know you'll be glad that you did. We have a wonderful presenter today, and whatever you've been reading or trying to learn about or understand with the return of student loans and debt, um, this will be a whole new, more in-depth and much needed presentation. So I know how glad you'll be that you're with us. So my name is Rita Wolfson. If you don't know that, I am the founder of Financial Social Work and the Financial Health and Wellness Professional Community. With me today on this call is our relationship manager, Linda Benjamin, and Olga Patanen, and she is all things tech, and she will put anything that you need to know right into the chat box. And our terrific presenter today is Dr. Matthew Schwartz. He is a very special friend to me and a huge supporter of financial social work. And he and I will be writing a textbook together on financial social work. He will tell you more about himself in a few minutes when I turn over the presentation to him. I do want to welcome you personally and professionally. One of the things I love so much about financial social work is the fact that we use it personally to improve our own lives as well as professionally to add new tools to our client toolbox. Just some housekeeping information. It's the chat box that will have messages. The slides aren't shared, they are proprietary. The recording will be on our website, Facebook page, and YouTube channel within a day or so. And you will receive it via email next week, I believe. You can type your questions into the question box as we go along. We'll answer as many as time permits at the end. There are no CEs or certificates of attendance for this presentation. I'd like to encourage all attendees to take a deep breath, to put your feet on the floor, get comfortable, center yourself. When we talk about money, it's always going to bring up many different things for each of us. So let's take one more deep breath in and then release it. I do like to start with our financial social work affirmation. I think it really captures what I've tried to create over 26 years. Just for today, I will love myself enough to face my fears, practice self-acceptance, and embrace hope. Just for today, I will silence my inner critic, speak my truth, and make peace with myself and with my past. I will give myself permission to eliminate toxic people, beliefs, and behaviors from my life. And just for today, I will prepare for a better tomorrow by healing my relationship with my money and myself today. We've been starting off these trainings each month with a picture, and we ask you to share your answers in the question box, and Linda will read them to all of us. Let's see. What does this picture make you think of?
Anyone? Oh, we have one. Protection, weighing risk against money. Anyone else?
Anybody else?
There's a bunch coming in. I see saving for a rainy day, trying to balance, a lot of balance. Managing money is a balancing act. Having
Mm,
money set aside for a rainy day. Investing, is it for me? And how to decide on an investment.
okay. We always get very interesting responses to our picture, and I spend a lot of time looking for pictures that are a little more interesting than just having a bunch of cash in them. Okay, so before I turn it over to Matt, let me tell you a little bit about financial social work and why we offer a free webinar each month. We know that no one chooses to have money problems, but sadly, most people do. Financial social work is the intersection of social work, politics, the economy, gender, economic, and social justice, and all inequity. It is a behavioral model because until and unless behavior changes, nothing changes. It's heavily psychosocial. It explores the financial thoughts, feelings, attitudes, beliefs, experience, and values that drive financial behavior. And for us, financial behavior is how we earn, spend, save, share, and borrow. It's all of these things in our active, reflective, supportive, motivational, because these are the pieces that come together to contribute to behavioral change. It is holistic and multidisciplinary, and it does work well individually and with groups. It is heart-centered and approaches money and life from a perspective of healing, acceptance, courage, wellness, and honesty. And at the core of my work is healing the relationship we each have with our money and with ourselves. So that involves self-discovery, self-care, and self-healing. It's about taking ownership of our financial lives, our financial health, and our financial futures. And we have thousands of graduates across the country and around the world. And that concludes my part here. And now it gives me so much pleasure to turn this over to Dr. Matthew Schwartz. And you will be glad you are here when you meet him. Have it, Matt?
I think so. Let's see here. See, yep, there we go. All right, can everyone hear me?
I can.
Excellent. All right. So welcome everyone. What to know about student loans debt before, during, and after college. So as we get today opening, I'm a licensed clinical social worker, I'm a certified financial social worker, I'm part-time faculty at the University of Buffalo School of Social Work. I have a whole lot of alphabet soup after my name, and it might make it seem like I'm really invested in everyone going to college. And really, that couldn't be farther from the truth. So before we start, I do have a poll question I'd like to ask. Two polls just to get us started. So I'm going to put the first one here, and just let us know, sort of what's bringing you into chat. A lot of recent grads. Okay. Give just another couple of seconds. Folks are still voting. Okay, we're going to close the poll now. And let's look at these results here. So I'm seeing folks are helping clients out, is the other. Many years out of school, but large amount of student debt remains. Financial coach, parent of a 10-year-ago grad who still has debt. Clients in bad financial shape. New MSW student. And here we can see that we have 28% recently graduated. Congratulations on graduating, and need to get out of the debt. We also have parents, and we also have some folks who are preparing to go to college. And maybe this presentation will change some minds here. Okay, so let's make sure that I'm back to sharing my screen. I am. Excellent. So today we're going to look at the state of student loans. I'm going to tell you a college story that's going to explain my personal perspective and hopefully work to reduce some shame and some stigma. Then we're going to talk about, from a financial social work perspective, what should we be doing before college, during college, and after college. We're going to talk about repayment options, and then we're going to move into a Q&A. To start us off, as hopefully many of you know, interest began after there was a pause on interest on student loans. Interest started again this past September 1st, and federal student loan payments return this coming month in October. So this is very important to know that we've had a few years off because of the pandemic, things have been on hiatus, on a pause, and now student loans are back in our lives in a really big way. As a general reminder, we're taking a financial social work perspective, which means we're going to look at the whole biopsychosocial model. We're going to look at human behavior as it relates to their finances. So this is really less a here's how you beat your student debt, and really more, what are we doing about our behavior as it relates to collecting student debt? So student debt and student loans. Right now, Americans have about 1.77 trillion in student loan debt. These are the most recent figures, second quarter 2023. Just during the second to last school year, families borrowed around $94.7 billion to go to school. 46 of those are federal unsubsidized student loans, 16 subsidized, 13 Grad Plus. And Grad Plus loans are after you max out how much you can borrow in subsidized and unsubsidized student loans, 13% in private loans, and 11% in Parent Plus loans. So parents taking out loans to help their students, or their children who are students. Private loans, we are looking at $128.77 billion of debt as of the first quarter. It is really hard to imagine that much money. For most of us, it's hard to imagine what is $1.77 trillion. What could we all do if we had $1.77 trillion? We can do a whole lot more than we're doing with it as national debt right now. So the Institute for College Access and Success is a nonprofit policy institute. And what they did is they said, okay, let's take a look at how debt breaks down across the geographic region of the United States. So this is from 2022. So we know that the numbers have only generally increased. So when we look at that light peach, there's an average debt of under 26,000. Orange has an average debt of 26 to 29.9 thousand, and purple has an average debt over 30,000. And of course, there's many different reasons for this. There's different population bases. We know that New York City is the largest city, and so that, of course, is reflected. We also know that there's socio and economic differences, people who are or are not going to college, or those who may have institutional wealth. What we can see, though, is that really no state is unaffected by student loan debt. And the problem is that our national student loan debt has only increased. So from 2006, it was 0.52 trillion. In 2022, it's 1.76 trillion. Now, of course, 1.77. And it's only going to continue to grow. So we haven't seen any leveling. We haven't seen any reduction. We've only seen a steady increase in overall student loan debt. So what we know from a behavioral standpoint is that student loan debt's having a very negative impact on the financial behavioral health of both loan borrowers and their families. We also know that student loan debt is having a negative impact on communities and the country. So there are reports that it is affecting millennials' ability to purchase homes and housing, as well as creating behavioral problems, including an increase in drinking, anxiety, depression, stress, and even feelings of suicidality. We also know that it's delaying other life purchases and other life changes, and may also be contributing to a decreased rate of childbirth and new families starting. When you have hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, you may not think that having a family or moving forward with housing or your career is really an option. So While beyond the scope of today's webinar, it really is important for us to note that there is a disparity in the financial behavioral health impact between communities based on factors such as race and gender. Other research is showing that student loans are negatively impacting millennials starting families and businesses, which means that we're also going to have a brain drain. If people don't feel empowered to innovate and to be entrepreneurs, we as an entire country lose out. Right now, based on the data, millennials will likely, unless drastic changes happen, be worse off than their parents for the remainder of their financial lives. And that is a very depressing figure to think about. So I'm going to tell you a little bit of a college story. I want to break down some stigma here. And this only made sense to me as I got a little bit older. So when I got into college, my second year of college, I got into somewhere around $80,000 in credit card debt. Wow, that was a lot of credit card debt. And how did this happen? Well, this was before smartphones, and this was before buy now, pay later was, a tap away on your screen. What happened was that there was predatory credit card application workers on campus. And they'd pull you aside and say, hey, we're going to give you this great deal. Go sign up for here. And you might fill out one card application, and they'd easily help you photocopy it to 6, 7, 8, or 9 other applications. And the thing is that I had economics in high school. I actually did really well in economics in high school. I had home ec. I learned how to balance a checkbook. But I didn't learn how to balance debt. I didn't learn how to prioritize spending. I didn't learn how to live with or stick to any sort of budget. And more importantly, I didn't take into account the impact that my family money story was going to have on my life in this moment. So I only learned later in life that one of my parents struggles with alcohol and addiction. And that actually played out in their spending with a lot of impulsivity, as well as, of course, untreated ADHD. And so I got my spending habits from my parents. One of my parents accidentally bought a condo once. I don't know how you accidentally do that, but it happened. And so here I was in college with these skills, right? They're life skills. They may not be great life skills. And all of a sudden, a bunch of credit cards got to my door. Well, I was, 19 at the time? And what do we know, of course, about anyone between the ages of birth to 26? No fully formed prefrontal cortex, so we do not have good decision-making skills. We cannot think about the future. Until you're 26, you are biologically in adolescence. So I wasn't doing so great. I was making horrible life choices with my money. And it eventually caught up to me because I couldn't make the minimum payments due. And so at a very young age, I had to get myself in order, and I had to consolidate my debt and work with a debt consolidation nonprofit, get it into a monthly payment, and learn how to get that figured out. And it had a lot of negative repercussions outside of my credit score at the time. I wasn't able to go and study abroad. I wasn't able to do a lot of things because I was working to make sure that that money would be paid off. And so our money stories, what we learn about finances, schools aren't teaching money well, families aren't teaching money well, and we as a community are not teaching money, financial behavioral health, or money decision making well. The other thing is, why on earth did I go to college? And I know it sounds a little trite to someone who has, 2 master's degrees, a bachelor, and a doctorate to go, why on earth did I go to college? Well, seriously. Well, I was pressured into going into college. Our guidance department came in and they told us that the worst thing we could do, they had a whole chart that they handed out photocopies to every student. And they said the worst thing you can do is to stay in your parents' basement. The second worst thing that you could do is go into the trades or to a vocational program. And they listed all the reasons why it was bad. The third worst thing you can do is go to a community college. The fourth and best thing you can do, and you'll notice the only good thing on the list that they handed out, was go to college or university. Well, I was also a special education student. The fact that I was graduating high school is a really big deal. There's a lot of expectations culturally from my cultural background that I should go to school. And so I went to college and ignored all of the advice of all of the teachers I was working with. Because from middle school through my Regents diploma in high school, I was in the art track. I could have saved myself hundreds of thousands of dollars if I apprenticed or if I worked at the grocery store and built up a portfolio. I didn't do those things. And it's not that I regret where I am. I'm actually very happy with how my career worked out. But I could have been probably equally as happy and with a lot less debt and a lot more money. And so this becomes a community issue. It becomes an issue of what we're teaching or not teaching in schools, how we are receiving or not receiving news when a child or I'm sorry, high schoolers aren't children anymore, but when a young adult says, I want to go into the trades, and we don't celebrate that as much as someone who may want to go to college. So it becomes something really important for us to start thinking about our family money stories, because they impact our college stories and our college money stories. So we need to make some changes. Before we can even discuss college, we have to talk about whether college is even the right path in 2023. So some historical context. Harvard founded in 1636, my alma mater, University of Buffalo, 1846, we have UCLA in 1919. Some things have changed since the 1600s. Everyone accessing this webinar right now has the power of infinite knowledge literally in your pocket. Colleges and universities have seen record increases in tuition. And this is across the board, state, private, nonprofit, and private for-profit. And the reasons for going to college are not sufficiently explained to students or their families. So decisions right now are being made in a vacuum with a lot of societal pressure and stigma. And what colleges aren't sharing or really disclosing well enough is that a lot of these increases are to provide college experiences. They're not having anything to do with a better education. Though there is, of course, the fallacy that if we pay more for something, it's better. And some colleges are also making profits off of that. They're to provide cooler dorms, cooler experiences, nicer living. But it's not having any impact on the education that students are actually imbibing into their brain. And right now, there are more alternatives today than any other point in history, and we really do need to talk about it. So there's the Union Hall, been around for quite a while. You can literally get paid to learn a trade. They will pay you to learn a trade. You will graduate at some point after you're a journeyman, an apprentice journeyman, you'll become a master tradesperson, and you will be able to work and have no debt. There's vocational school, many different options. You have to pay for it at the same rate. I don't know if any of you have had to bring your car into the mechanic recently. They are certainly getting paid more an hour than I am. There are apprenticeships. And then there's ways that parents can support their children in different ways. There's online learning and portfolio development while working. So maybe your high school graduate can stay in your house or stay in the home, get a day job, and take online courses and develop a portfolio, whether it's in coding or in literature or in editing. Or maybe you have enough resources where you can say, look, we're going to save a lot of money if you don't go to school, and there's alternative ways of learning. What if you tried one of those and built a portfolio, and we'll still take care of your bills the same way we would have if you went to college, or some combination thereof. New alternatives are popping up all the time, and we have to start making them a part of our financial behavioral health education. So we have some decision-making questions we have to start asking ourselves before we even think about going to college. Does the career I want match the knowledge I'm seeking? We're going to talk about this a little bit later in the presentation too. If you really want to learn Old English, that's excellent. There are not enough tenure-track positions for every single person who's getting an English degree. What do you actually want to do? What will drive your fire? What will make you happy to earn an income? We want an educated populace. Do you have to get an education in Old English from school, or can you learn it from an online learning community? If you or your child don't know what you want to do or what you want to learn, why on earth are we taking on debt now instead of traveling, taking a gap year, or working until we figure it out? Can I learn the material in a different way? Art, foreign languages, literature. Do I have to go to school for what I want to do? Medicine, social work, and accounting. My bachelor's is in applied linguistics because I got burned out in the art department. Well, I'm really good with languages. I still could have saved money if I either, apprenticed as an artist, or I just learned foreign languages in a foreign language class. I could have saved thousands. Am I mature enough to take on the responsibility of going to class, managing finances, taking on debt now? Or should I wait a couple of years? There is such a push to rush youth from high school to college. And this pressure is what often causes it, wherever you are, poor financial decision making. Pressure is a sales tactic. It happens when you go to buy a car. It happens when you go to sign a venue for a party or a wedding. There's a pressure. Well, why? You can go to college at any age. Why on earth are we pressuring youth to make this life-changing decision before their prefrontal cortex is fully formed and before they can even possibly understand what having $100,000 in debt to their name means? It's not okay, and we have to start taking folks to task. We have to ask ourselves, are my interests better met through hands-on vocational training? Am I truly invested in liberal arts education? Why? What will I gain? What will I sacrifice? Lifetime learning is important. An educated populace is important to the functioning of democracy and just good communities in general. But an education does not equate to a college degree. There's many ways of getting educated. And finally, if I am committed to liberal arts education, can I start at a community college first and then choose my next step, saving thousands of dollars in the process and having more individual, more tailored education to meet my needs while I'm working through Gen Eds? One of my favorite memes, this is from two broke girls. They're all working at Starbucks, and it says, I think I can handle it. I went to Wharton. And the guy says, well, I went to Harvard. And the girl says, well, I went to juvie, and we're all here wearing an apron. So remember when I said how many folks are really working in their field of degree? This is just from this month. 27.3% of college graduates work in the field of their degree. Another way of saying that is about 75% don't, or 62.1% of college grads don't work in their major field. 38% of people with a bachelor's degree say they would have chosen a different major. 48% of college grads with humanitarian or arts degrees said they would have studied something different. And only 24% of those with engineering degrees say they wish they had studied something different. 84% of college grads have trouble finding work. 40% of recent college graduates have had to lower salary expectations at a time, of course, when inflation is ridiculously high. And 34% of college grads could have been hired in their current jobs without getting a degree. Okay, so after all of those words of warning, you've decided you're going to college or your loved one's going to college. So what do we want to do before we start sending our loved ones out into the world here? Well, first, we want to make a budget. We want to make a budget as a family together. And this can be very hard for parents. And so if you are a parent here, please do check out the Financial Social Work directory at financialsocialwork.com. Find a financial social worker who can help you have that conversation if you don't feel comfortable having it yourself. And as a family, determine how much your child actually needs to borrow. Please do not borrow beyond that. Student loans will let you take out the max student loan far beyond what you need to cover that semester for things like living expenses, housing expenses. And that's all good and well. But could that money be earned at a different way, not through debt, which incurs interest the moment that you borrow it? Commit to only taking out federal loans versus private loans. Private loans are often predatory. They also charge usually higher interest. You do not have the same benefits and protections of federal loans. And you want to determine if you can work, if you have work study options available to you, or if you're eligible for scholarships. You want to apply what you're eligible for while also understanding that scholarships, because of inflation, are not what they used to be. Fulbright scholarships do not happen very often anymore. If you're sending your child off to school, start with observing and then describing, not judgmentally, their spending, saving, and borrowing behaviors. And this is something that has to be really committed to and has to be in conjunction. You don't want your child to think that you're spying on them. What we want to do is say, hey, before you go off to school, I want to make sure that you can handle money in a way that's not going to be harmful to you. So let's look at your purchases over the course of a week, 2 weeks, a month, and then have that conversation, because you're going to want to identify what behaviors will need some adjustments before they go away to school. For instance, do they regularly dip into the negative in their account? Do they have really a lot of difficulty sticking to budgets? Do they do better when they're using cash out of their wallet than their debit card? We want to identify what might be a barrier for them, because we want to develop that financial independence and non-reliance on debt and credit cards now. Then we want to review the budget again as new information is added. And we want to plan to check in the first year while slowly reducing check-ins to develop independence. Have a weekly or a monthly phone call. Make sure that everything's going okay. Develop that sense of trust so that we can intervene before there's a problem. So during, we get to school, we get unpacked, we get a dorm that is worthy of Pinterest, and you go home, you cry a little bit because you dropped off one of your children or maybe all of your kids, who knows? Well, now is the time to start having your kids spend that hour a week with their money. Same hour, same day every week. You want to pick a time Monday through Friday, 9 to 4. There's this real good reason for that. This is a time to review upcoming bills, money spent, bank accounts, review account statements. And the reason it's between 9 to 4, Monday through Friday, is it's to give your child or you the ability to make difficult phone calls when people are in the office. I teach around 30 undergrads every year. I also teach grad students, but my undergrads have the most problem calling a place and reaching out for help. And so developing this skill now and making it so that they know that it's only going to be Wednesdays between 12 and 1 makes a daunting task that much more possible. You want to track spending and spending behaviors. We also want to consider, can we start paying toward the student loans now if you have that financial luxury? You want to stay up to date on different repayment programs and student loan debt relief news. It's changing all of the time. I don't know if any of you have noticed, Washington is a little bit confused these days and things get really difficult to get out of Congress. So we have to pay close attention to what's being talked about and what's actually coming out. And right now is the time to plan for after college in a very real way. This includes work. Work in whatever field you want to go to isn't hiring, and how you're going to pay back those student loans. One of the things that I was very fortunate with, was I got into work in every field that I have a degree in. That is incredibly rare. And I can tell you the vast majority of students and friends that I know do not work in their chosen career fields. They love what they study, but there aren't jobs in it. Anthropology is amazing, but unless you're getting a PhD, you find a way to be Indiana Jones, you're not going to get to do much with it. And so having that tough conversation of, it's okay to love something, it's okay to learn something, and what other skills are you developing because you're going to need to pay bills and to pay rent, is an important conversation to have even during college, and normalizing this process. We're going to college to learn versus going to college for a very specific career. If you're going to college to learn, I would say really rethink that and say, what am I learning and why am I learning it here? So after, there's a 6-month grace period before repayment of student loans begins. Private loans generally excluded, though not all. Depends on what your private loan agreement is. And we want to start either putting money aside right now to pay for your loans once they start and your grace period is over, or to begin paying earlier if you can. You also want to make sure that you know who your student loan servicer is. Who am I supposed to be paying money? Who do I contact if I'm having problems paying my bills? We also want to, if we can, consolidate our loans. While consolidating the loans can sometimes create some barriers, for the most part, it's pretty helpful. Consolidating loans allows you to apply for the greatest amount of benefits for student loan forgiveness. It's sometimes a requirement for public service loan forgiveness. And it also gives you one payment and one servicer. And you want to apply for income-driven repayment. So let's talk about repayment options. Right now, there are many repayment option plans to choose from. And finding the right plan for you is really based on your individual financial situation, your family size, and your family status. I'm not going to go through all of the repayment options because I'm going to give you the resource to find the one that's best for you. Federal Student Aid has a loan simulator that can help you make the best decision possible for you. Now, my guess is that your best decision is going to be the SAVE plan, and we're going to talk about that and what that means. And yet, everyone's family is different. And when we have many, 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 many plans, me telling a room of how many people do we have here, 88, 89, some odd folks, which plan I think is best for them isn't going to really work out. So if you go to studentaid.gov/loan-simulator, you can find out based on your financial circumstances what your best loan repayment option is. What is important to know is that student loans cannot be discharged in bankruptcy. they're explicitly excluded. Interesting to note, though, that if you happen to have, I don't know, a yacht bill, you can probably exclude that in bankruptcy, but you can't discharge your student loans. Your student loans can be forgiven if you become permanently disabled, including certain mental health conditions. You need to complete a total and permanent disability form with your physician. And a total and permanent disability form is a downloadable form. It has to be completed by a physician, an MD or a DO. And it's something that would then discharge the entire amount of student loan debt for someone who is never going to be able to work. So for those social workers on the phone call today, you might think of a patient that is on Social Security disability insurance, maybe who had an accident or is having some mental health concerns that really prevents them from working, or who's living in a group home. This would be a wonderful way to ensure that that debt does not hang over or impact them. So the Biden administration has put forward the SAVE plan, which replaces the revised pay-as-you-earn plan. What it does is it lowers monthly payments to 10% of discretionary income, while also adjusting very generously what counts as discretionary income, and it takes into account your family size. So my monthly payment went from $300-something a month to $0 a month. Well, I take care of my mother who is disabled. She is in fact one of my dependents on my tax form. I own my business. That comes off. My adjusted gross income, taxes aren't anything really more than math. And so when we do the math, I'm not taking advantage of anything. I'm literally just doing my math. And I now will, in theory, have my student loans forgiven at my payoff date. So $204,627 based on my income right now, inclusive of expenses, so your gross adjusted income. Excellent. Now, I hope to be earning, over six figures, at least within the next decade. And if that happens, I'm sure my monthly payment's going to go up slightly, but it's not going to be onerous. And so the SAVE plan is a way of getting student loan forgiveness, not immediately, but at least by the payoff date for many, many, many student loan borrowers. So I'm really going to encourage folks to think about consolidating your loans and applying for the SAVE plan on the financial aid website. Public service loan forgiveness. Right now it's being overhauled, and what that really means is unknown. The short of it, you have to be working for a US-based organization, federal, state, local, tribal, or the US military, or a nonprofit 501c3, a few very specific other nonprofits that meet very specific guidelines. So for instance, it can't be for a political campaign, it can't be for anything political. You have to work full-time, you have to have direct loans, or consolidate your other federal loans into a direct loan. And then you have to repay your loans either under an income-driven repayment plan, such as a SAVE plan, or a 10-year standard repayment plan. And you have to make 120 qualifying monthly payments, which do not need to be consecutive. And of course, the student aid website has a tool to help you and your workplace make sure that you're certifying your work, which you should be doing every year that you're employed, and of course, making payments toward your student loan. So what's nice about the SAVE plan, just getting back to this for a second, is yeah, there's going to be some debt on my credit report, but debt that gets paid off, not bad on the credit report. And so we're going to see how this impacts student loans borrowers as they move forward in the future, as they attempt to get mortgages, housing, cars, etc. Other important note, do not default on your student loans. First, it will be reported to credit bureaus. The federal government can collect in other ways, such as through wage garnishment, garnishment from tax refunds, and also from other government payments and programs. Some states even have punitive statutes that can revoke your professional license. So imagine that you are a nurse, a medical doctor, you are a public engineer, any licensed profession, and all of a sudden you default on your loans and they take away your license. Now you can't even earn in the way that you have been the money necessary to pay it back. So the most important takeaway here is communicate with your loan servicer. If you're having trouble paying, let them know. Do not default. Do not plan on just not paying it. Do not plan on ignoring it, which we know are, of course, consistent behaviors with the chronic financial stress syndrome. We have to work towards communicating about it, no matter how stressful it is. And while defaulting will not impact your ability to get Medicare, you will still be eligible for Medicare. It may, i.e. it will, result in Social Security or disability benefit garnishment. The government does want its money back. So it's very important that you stay current with your student loans. Some final thoughts. Education is important. Having the ability to take out student loans for those who want to get an education is important. Right now, from all of the research, the biggest factor isn't even the loan amounts, it's the interest. And if we had interest at non-usury rates, we probably wouldn't even be talking about this crisis as much as we are right now. But we don't, and we have to live in the financial and economic reality that we're in. So for those of you who are working as caseworkers, case managers, social workers, for those of you who are parents, for those of you who are even considering college, I'm going to just encourage all of you to have these very real conversations with your clients and with your kids and even with yourselves. Okay, you love learning. That's excellent. There are hundreds of books at the public library. What about going to college and getting this degree is going to be helpful? What about it is going to be harmful to your long-term financial plans and to your long-term peace of mind and financial security and stability? And so with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Rita.
Thanks, Matt.
Yep.
I appreciate that. So I want to show my screen. Okay, we are going to do Q&A, and we have some time to get that done. But first, I have a few additional resources that I'd like to share with you. So if you're not familiar with financial social work, just in the past 2 months, we introduced our client financial wellness magazine. This is an exciting new resource because for one fee, you get to send out as many issues to as many clients as you'd like. It keeps your clients engaged in financial health and wellness, and it keeps your agency in front of clients and staff. Also, we have a financial health and wellness professional community where we meet regularly each month. We interact, learn, network, connect, expand resources, and support each other across diverse client populations. We also have a partner program on the website. If a colleague makes a purchase from us using your partner number, you receive a 10% commission and your colleague receives a 10% discount. I wanted to make sure to let you know that next month, our monthly webinar is on technology for social work. Is digital banking guilty of financial discrimination? And then in November, I'll be doing eschewing holiday overspending guilt and post-holiday remorse syndrome. So a few final thoughts. No one chooses to have money problems, but most people do. The good news is that no one needs or can get to know everything about money, but everyone needs to know certain things about money. This one is the one that if you spent time with us before, you know how frustrating it is to me and most of our community that we continue to raise generation after generation of financially illiterate men and women. So we have got to do better with raising financially smart children. We need to stay aware of the connection between money and mental health. It's very real and it's very serious. And finally, when we talk about money, what are we really talking about? Yes, we're talking about survival, safety, and security. And we're talking about power because those who have the power are those who have the money. Let's never stop working to make peace and make friends with our money. And there exists too strong a relationship between finances and suicide that shouldn't and doesn't. have to be a death sentence. Always choose life. Everyone has a relationship with money and with self, and most of them need healed. Healing your relationship with yourself takes time, honesty, less self-criticism, and more self-love. And healing your relationship with your money begins with your thoughts, feelings, attitudes, values, and experiences with money. We have a financial social work certification with thousands of graduates. And this year we've been offering pay what you can. It's kind of an honest honor system. And if you can only afford to pay $395 for the certification, then we honor you with that payment. And it does include 20 CEUs from National NASW. And full price at $695 includes a 1-year free membership in our financial health and wellness professional community. So finally, we are ready for some Q&A. What do we have?
Okay. Wonderful presentation, Matt. Thank you so very much. People are curious. First question, what was the option that pays for trade school?
Okay. So it's not trade school. It's going to a union hall, joining the trade union, and becoming an apprentice or a journeyman.
Okay.
So, for instance, in Buffalo, you can go to. I think we have an electrical union hall here. You go to the union hall, you join, you then are able to work your way through the trades.
Okay. Thank you very much. Next question.
Yeah.
Why am I hearing that some people with college loans and student debt are paying 30% in interest?
So that depends, right? If we look at student loans, it really depends on if they're having a private loan or not. And there are predatory loans out there. And unfortunately, people, especially if you're going for a private loan, which is looking at your credit report, you can easily have a loan with 30% interest. And that's part of the problem. So really, we're looking at how are people borrowing that money and why are they borrowing it in that way versus, for instance, going through federal direct loans.
Okay, very good. Here's one. I'm getting married soon. My fiance has a ton of student debt. Does that automatically become my responsibility?
One more, I'm sorry, you got to read that one more time.
Sure. I'm getting married soon. My
Mhm.
fiance has a ton of student debt. Does that transfer to me? Am I responsible for that once we get married?
Okay. So once you get married, how you choose to file your taxes will make you possibly responsible for that. And so that I'm going to really advise you to talk to a CPA because you may need to file as, filing as a single person even though married, because it can increase your tax liability. As whether or not you're financially responsible for it, it depends because in theory, if you're getting married, it becomes part of your joint assets and debts. And if God forbid he passes away, so what I would say is talk to your accountant about the student loan debt. Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Next question. Do scholarships even cut it anymore?
I don't think so. I've happily received scholarships. They maybe covered a couple of textbooks, when textbooks are $300 or $400. And so I really don't think that scholarships are cutting it at all.
Any other ways of paying for college then?
Well, there's really, if you either have wealthy parents or you have student loans, there is sometimes work study, and even then you're generally taking out loans. So right now it's really rethinking, what does this look like?
Okay. And so the next question is, it fits right there, is college even worth it?
It really depends. If you know that you want to become, you are dead set on becoming a teacher, okay, well then that English degree and then going to grad school to become a teacher might be worth it. if you don't know what you want to do, or if what you want to do doesn't need a degree, well then no, it's really not. And the thing is that we've pushed it as a society. If you're looking at, what do you want? Well, I want to live comfortably, I want to travel, I want this, that, the other. College may not be worth it for you. And this is why we have to start having those really honest conversations with ourselves.
Awesome, thank you. Next question. When may I stop paying a student loan when I work for a nonprofit organization?
Oh, you don't stop paying for the student loan. So if you're working for a nonprofit, you have to make 120 qualified payments, as well as certify that you're working there every year and be involved in the public service loan forgiveness program. And then after 10 years and 120 payments of your student loan payment, then as long as you're working through the public service loan forgiveness program, then your loans will be discharged. You'll be notified that they're discharged, but you cannot stop paying them until you've been notified that they have been discharged.
And I think it's really important, Matt, that people understand that they have to be enrolled. You can't go back and say, I worked here 10 years. You have to be in the plan, enrolled over the course of the 10 years, right, Matt? I'm pretty sure that's
yeah,
right.
I don't believe there's a look back period. And also they are revamping it, so that may change. So I'm not sure yet. I don't want to say definitively if I'm not sure.
Okay.
Well, thank you for that very thoughtful answer. Next question. What about parents opening college funds? Could this be beneficial?
If you are opening a college fund with an investment broker and you have a lot of money to put into it, yes. The question is are you going to be able to put in the same amount of college? Are you going to be able to put in for $10,000 a semester if they're going to state school to cover housing, food, tuition, and costs? If you're not able to, it's always great to save, but these accounts, they give this false hope that you're going to have enough money by the time your kid goes to college. And with inflation and rising college costs, that's just not the case.
Okay. And then someone our participant is curious if you had it to do all over again, would you do it?
Mm-hmm. No, nope. I would be, listen, it's sort of as if you can go back in time and, you step on a twig, right? The dinosaurs are no longer there. Listen, I love the friends that I've made. I love the profession and career that I wound up in. But knowing, if I knew then what I know now, absolutely not.
Because?
Financial debt. Who wants to have $200,000 of debt that's going to follow you around until you're in your 60s? It just wasn't worth it. I could have done everything that I did in more interesting ways just by staying in the city and traveling around and learning with artists and working, and I would have no debt and more money. So I don't know. I think that having money is important. Money is power. Power to have what you want, live where you want, do what you want. So, I love learning. I would have read books anyway. Good question. Can you enroll? I see one question that popped on my screen. Can you enroll if you're currently working with a nonprofit but not yet done with school? From my understanding, you have to be done with school, but I would confirm that with student loans.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I have coming in now several thank yous. Others are exclaiming that was wonderful information on student loans and debts. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Mm-hmm. My pleasure. Thank you everyone for attending.
Matt, thank you so much. That was really terrific. Thanks for joining us, everyone, and staying with us. I don't blame you because Matt has so much knowledge to share with us. We hope to see you back here again in the future. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye now.